Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. And here is this week's iTunes review. It comes to you from Dub by V. She writes, I love the podcast. You speak your mind and you don't sugarcoat anything. I love your energy and your good spirit. Oh, that just fills my heart. You don't even understand how much I enjoy these reviews. So please, if you feel the need, please go to iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast. Do me a favor and hit me up with a 5-star review. I absolutely love them. They mean the world to me, and I will read it on my podcast. So thank you so much, Dub by V. It does mean the world to me. Hey, Magic Makers, it's Kim here, and I have another great episode for you. So today I wanted to talk about strength training. And I know for many people, strength training is just one of those things that either you do or you don't, right? And I put a post out on my Instagram. If you don't follow me, Kim Jefferson Coach, and small hints. And I asked the question, I said, hey, would you rather lift or do cardio? And I was very surprised that 87% of the people who follow me were all about the lifting. So 2 steps up and a tic-tac. But if you are a cardio person, keep listening because I'm going to talk to you about why strength training should be something that you include in your workout. And so I know that this year, with Rona, it's been a challenge because maybe some of you are still not at the gym and you're still at home, or maybe you're at the gym and, it's just a little weird, to get back into that rhythm. And I totally get it. And so I'm going to give you some things that we can start to do to really focus on strength training and also why you should start to strength training. So one of the biggest things about strength training is that it helps to build our muscle. And our muscles are metabolically active. So you're like, metabolically active, that's big fancy talk, Kim, right? It's big fancy talk. It's basically is that our muscle contributes to our metabolism. So the more muscle I have in my body, the higher my metabolism, right? And I did a whole episode on metabolism. So check the show notes and you can listen to that episode. But I'm just going to give you a little snippet so we can kind of set the stage and we can move forward. So we have what we call your basal metabolic rate. And your basal metabolic rate, other than being a tongue twister, is the base level of calories your body burns to keep you alive. So it's you laying in bed, heart beating, breathing, maybe blinking your eyes. That's the base level of calories you need to stay alive. The more muscle I have on my body, the higher that number is. And the higher that number is that it's the more calories I'm able to consume without worrying about eating in a caloric excess, right? Because we all know in order to lose weight, there has to be some form of a caloric deficit. Now, I'm talking about strength training today specifically because so many people focus in on that caloric deficit, but it focuses mainly on food or, I'm also going to bust a myth right here too. You're on a piece of cardio equipment and you're looking at it and it says you burned X number of calories. So you think I can eat that many calories. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I have worked in a gym for over 15 years. Those machines are not calculated. They are calculated back in the factory and they're probably calculated based off of some equation that has nothing to do with you. And so it's not a true reading about what's happening to you. Same thing with your Fitbit, your Apple Watch, all that other stuff. Those are great data points, but it's not, it's not written in stone. It's those are just points, guide markers. And I challenge you. I know that in my Fitness Pal, I know that they will do, like, when you put in you're tracking your food and you're tracking your exercise, and you'll say that this is what you did for exercise, and it'll say, okay, you ate 1,000 calories, but because you burnt 500 calories, we're going to give you 500 calories back. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. And in my Fitness Pal, you can turn that off. So that way you're not confused by it. So Google that and you will be able to turn off that piece in my Fitness Pal. All right, back to the story at hand. So with strength training, first of all, it's, like I said, it helps to boost your metabolism, helps you to eat more food, helps you eat more food, but also help you to lose more weight, because I'm building up my metabolic rate. And that also, I know many of you will start to say to me, well, Kim, I don't really like to strength train because I'm going to get too big and get too bulky. Well, unless you have some like ridiculous amount of testosterone, it is impossible for you as a lady to get big and bulky. You cannot look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime unless you are taking something. And back in the day, everybody took something when they were bodybuilders. Now, not so much, but for the 80s and 90s, a lot of those guys were on something. So there's no way you could get that big. Now, the other thing I want to talk about before we move forward is stop using the word toned. I want to be toned. I want to be toned. That makes me roll my goddamn eyes every time I hear someone say I want to be toned. You want to add muscle. That's me banging my fist on the table. You want to add muscle because, like I said, muscle is metabolically active. I do not know what tone is. Tone is a soap from the 80s that I don't even think they make it anymore. So you want to have muscle. The first time I realized how badly I wanted to have muscle on my body was when I saw Terminator 2 and Linda Hamilton's arms. I was like, I want those arms. Those are the arms I want to have. I want to look muscular. And from then I fell in love with weight training. I started hitting the weights, and I have not looked back since. Now, many of you will be like, "Oh, Michelle Obama, Michelle Obama ain't toned. She got muscle." Michelle Obama got muscle. And if you asked her, she'd probably be like, "Oh, girl, I ain't toned. I got muscle," right? Because she works out. So I challenge you to start lifting heavy muscle. Now, I know many of you, cardio feels good, right? You go in, you get a good sweat on, like your endorphins are like, woo, 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 we're rocking it. And I know that some spin classes, like you'll do push-ups on the bike. I don't know if you collectively heard that giant eye roll. You'll do push-ups on the bike, or you'll do like a 3-minute burn with your arms. Like, stop. Okay. That's just, that's not even strength training. Okay. So when they tell you, oh, you're going to do strength training and spinning, I roll my eyes hard on that one. Right. I'm talking, you're lifting some heavy weights. All right. Now we'll get totally into that, but I just want to start talking more about the why behind why you should strength train. Okay. So there is, it's a biological fact, right? That once we hit 30, that we lose anywhere from 3 to 5% of our muscle every 10 years, right? And that muscle loss speeds up significantly once you hit 75. So look back now, if I can start to build what I call your muscle bank, right? If I can start now lifting so that I can, either match or beat what is happening to me biologically, that way I'm able to, do things, right? Acts of daily living, being able to get yourself out of a goddamn chair, being able to lift a gallon of milk, being able to pick up groceries, right? Those are the things that I want you to start thinking about what strength training can do in my daily life. Being able to take my bag and lift it from the floor to the ceiling in the overhead compartment when we travel again, right? Those are the things I want you to start to think about as strength training, because I think so many of us get caught up in the, if you live, I think they're nationwide, but Planet Fitness, like for a long time, they had that commercial. I pick things up, put things down, right? Yeah, you do pick things up and you put things out all the time. You pick up your kids, you pick up groceries, you pick up luggage, you pick up things that you're gardening, right? Those are things that are acts of daily living that if I am not strong enough to do, my quality of life is going to go down, right? I want you to think about that. That's what keeps me working out because I know that I want to be able to walk on my own unassisted, be able to go to the grocery store and, we all do it now, try to like grab as many grocery bags as possible so we're not making 500 trips to the car. That's what gets in my head about strength training. So, like I said, it's impossible for you to look like a bodybuilder unless you are on something now, or you have some freakish amount of testosterone in your body. And if you did, I'm sure there'd be other things that your doctor would have noticed that would have been like, hey, girl, did you know? Right? There'd be other things that you would notice. And one of the big beauties of strength training is that it helps to balance out our hormones. So for many of us over 40, we might be going through some of those hormonal imbalances, and strength training is definitely something that can help us in a natural way combat that. Many people talk about insulin balance. So insulin and estrogen work together, and they can be either burning or building. And in excess, they're building, right? They're just telling your body, bring on the fat, store it up. But when I start to strength train, it starts to improve my insulin sensitivity. So the more my insulin sensitivity is improved, the more my body's able to, send out insulin to help break up the sugar. And the more insulin is able to go out and break up the sugar, the less likely I am to store that sugar. Right. So that's another big thing. The other thing is that we get what we call human growth hormone. People pay thousands of dollars for this, right? We can get it for free just by strength training and getting adequate rest, because human growth hormone only comes out at rest, and it is a natural fat burner. And that's another, that's why muscle helps to build that metabolism and help to keep us, naturally lean, right? So when people talk about, tone, the word I like to use is lean, right? Lean is lean body mass, right? So if you've ever gotten your body fat tested, there is the percentage of lean body mass and a percentage of body fat, right? And the higher our lean body mass, as I've talked about, bumps up our metabolism. And one of the best examples that I've ever seen of this, and I share it over and over and over again, is that when I was getting my nutrition certification, one of the instructors, she had a baseball and a beach ball. And excuse me, I have no idea how much a baseball weighs. So I'm just making this up. So don't check me on this. If she had a baseball, say the baseball weighed 20 pounds, and then she had a beach ball, and she filled that beach ball with 20 pounds of sand. And she said, what would you rather be visually? Would you rather be a baseball or a beach ball? And everyone's like, oh, I'd rather be a baseball, right? It's tight. That's muscle, right? Where the beach ball represented having excess body fat. And so I want you to start to process, like many of you, want to step on the scale and see how the scale is and all of that stuff. But again, beach ball, baseball, right? If if I look in the mirror and I look like a baseball, I'm ecstatic. If I look in the mirror and I look like a baseball, I'm maybe not so ecstatic. So think about, ways to measure this. I know there are some people can have those scales at home that do this. There are other facilities that have like in-body scans, or they have bod pods. But, with everything that's kind of going on with Corona, I have no idea like what people are allowed to do off the street anymore. So one of the ways that I, tell my clients is grab a tape measure, right? Like, because if my body fat is shrinking, I might not know what the percent is, but I know that if I put my measuring tape around my chest, around my stomach, around my hips, around my thighs, I know if that number is going down And if that number is going down, that means I'm losing body fat, right? I might not have the precise number, but I'm at least, getting some data. And the one thing before I go on to like why we should strength train. One of the things is if you're someone who's a runner, right? I want you to really focus more on strength training of those legs, right? You should have a leg day every week because runners lose on average 4.4 pounds of muscle from their untrained areas. So that means your legs. Because I remember I used to train this woman several years ago, and she was just resistant to training her legs. She's like, I run, so I don't need to train my legs. Yeah, you have to train your legs to run. And no matter how much I tried to like drill into her head that like running is catabolic, because she wasn't seeing it immediately, she couldn't put her arms around it. So, I had to kind of trick her into doing some leg things, so that we could build some strength in her legs. But if you're one of my girls who need to run, make sure you're adding in a leg day so that you can help to fight off what naturally occurs. Running is a catabolic sport. So over time, if even if you're not seeing it today, over time, your muscle will start to break down in your legs if you are running. All right. So why do you care about strength training? I started giving you a few things, but it also helps you to up your bone density, right? As a woman, we all know as we age, our bone density goes down. And one of the ways that we can increase our bone density, sure, calcium and all that good stuff, vitamin D. But when I strength train, the muscle pulls on the bone. And when the muscle pulls on the bone, it makes the muscle actually stronger. And the stronger my bones are, the less likely I am to experience osteoporosis, experience, bone breaks, or experience, having to take any drugs other than, simple supplements to get my bone density to where it should be. Also, it helps us to, as we age, not to be that weak, frail, skinny, fat look, right? So that we have some type of muscle on our body that we are able to kind of like fill out our skeleton. And as I said, we've seen our aging population, and back in the day, they weren't told to exercise, right? Or they hopped on those machines that like, wrapped around your waist and like shook you, those are the kind of workouts that they did. And, now like the science has just like come, 400 fold of what it is that we need to do in order to, age gracefully. And that's where most of us want to do. It's like we want to be able to age with grace. Like, we can't stop that we're getting older. If someone knows that secret, holla, but we can't stop getting older. So, if you want that, muscular, okay, I'm not going to call it muscular look. I'm going to call it that lean, sculpted look you have to lift. And that's just, bottom line. And so I challenge women to start lifting at least 3 times a week. And they're lifting weights so that the last, if you're doing anywhere from 8 to 12 reps, the last 2 to 3 reps are challenging with good form, right? So many of us, I see it, I teach classes. Some people try to like gut through the workout without good form. And it's just like nails on a chalkboard for me, right? I want people to have quality movement, because when I have quality movement, that minimizes the potential for injury. And when you're injured, injuries put you on the sidelines. And, that just sucks. No one wants to be on the sideline with an injury. So I always challenge people to, focus on the form. And actually, I've created a new program where it's all about movement. How do you create quality movement? And there's just a number of different ways that we can start to create quality movement. So if you're interested in that, I will put the links in the show notes as well. But that's really primarily, one of the reasons why we strength train. Like, it also, when I started strength training, it gave me a better sense of confidence, right? I could, many times we set goals, we can't see it going up. And weight training, of all the things in fitness, especially, if a lot of my clients, they'll work with me. I'm like, well, it depends. It depends. It depends. Well, with strength training, for the most part, it's more linear than anything I could ever tell you about or talk about. And it shows you, I can see that like maybe every at least 6 to 8 weeks, I can increase the number of the amount of weight that I'm lifting, right? So that, maybe I started out with 10-pound dumbbells and in 6 to 8 weeks, I've graduated up to the 12s. And so everybody who is working out currently, I challenge you to say, when was the last time you changed your weights? When was the last time the weight that you picked, the last 2 to 3 exercises felt challenging, but with good form? And if you're like, oh, wow, gosh, ooh, right? The next time you go take your little booty to the gym, pick up heavier weights, because that's the only way to build muscle. So muscle is about building things down and tearing things up. So I'm going to give you like a visual, if you will. If you were to take your fingers and lace them together, and you were to like slowly start to pull them apart, you will start to see some holes created in between your fingers. And that right there is the building breaking part of muscle. So as my muscles break apart, then I can start to fill in the crevices with new muscle. And the more I fill the crevices of new muscle, that's what gives me that sculpted musculature, right? And the more I do that, the stronger I get, the leaner I get, and the more sculpted I get. Now, to do that, you have to challenge your body, right? You have to, every time that, you can easily lift your weights and the last 2 to 3 don't feel challenging, boom, up that weight. Now, some of you might be like, girl, I'm home. I don't have access to, a variety of weights. I hear you. So one of the things I challenge you is okay, so say you have 5-pound dumbbells. Start by changing the tempo, right? So it could be simple as lifting up for 2, lowering down for 2. It could be holding at the bottom or holding at the top and then going. It could be taking that 5-pound dumbbell, putting 2 dumbbells in one hand. So now it's a 10-pound dumbbell in one hand. It could be, jugs of water. It could be going to Home Depot and getting some sand and filling up, different empty bottles that you have at your house filled with sand. Those are the little things. And it could be, if you don't want to spend the money, or you could start stocking sites to start to build up your, a little weight arsenal at home. But also don't discount body weight, right? Your body, a lot of people just can't lift their own body weight. So, if you're doing push-ups, maybe you've been doing them on your knees, maybe you start to slowly graduate yourself to your toes. So those are like little tweaks and so forth. And if you need more, reach out to me, right? You can find me at hello@kimbarnesjefferson.com and just say you've been listening to this and you had some questions. I'd love to hear from you. And as well, the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on is that, we also need to add in protein. We need at least 20 to 30 grams of protein because, like I said, I talked about that, the breaking apart of the muscle. Well, protein is the building block of our muscle. So we need to make sure that we are fueling those workouts with protein. And so I always ask, my clients to have at least 20 to 30 grams of protein with every meal. So that looks like, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, lean animal protein, fish, shellfish. That's what it looks like. Cheese is not protein. Cheese is a good fat, right? Cheese is a good fat. Repeat it after me. It is not protein. And they might sell it in the protein aisle, but it ain't protein. So if I haven't sold you on the power of muscle, I invite you to grab my latest guide, and it's the Over 40 and Invincible guide, and it's the resource guide to help you beat the midlife spread. So if you feel like you're over 40 and you got the midlife spread, or maybe you're not 40 and you want to make sure you don't get the midlife spread, hop over and grab that guide. So that way, as you start to age, you can start to say to yourself, you know what? Yeah, that totally makes sense. I want to make sure that, as I age, I prevent myself from falling, and I have dental muscle and I have better balance and I'm able to bounce back from injury, as I do a lot of balance work. If you've ever taken any of my classes, do a lot of balance work with my clients. And I always say, I do balance work because, one of the programs I took, the woman who taught, like, she was like 70 if she was a day. And she talked about helping her 90-year-old mother. And she talked about balance and like how, I think it's from age 70 and higher, that a fall just knocks so many people out of the game. And so I was always like, all right, that's why I guess I'm doing balance now. So you're not playing catch up as your balance is starting to fail. And then I was watching Sex in the City, and Miranda falls in the shower, right? And she called Carrie to ask her to come over to help her out. And Carrie couldn't help her out. She was off to another something or another. And she sends over Aiden. And Aiden, sees you naked. So think about it, right? Like when you're like, first of all, you fall, so you're kind of embarrassed, and then you're vulnerable, and then you're naked, right? So it's just like the trifecta. So I always challenge my clients, and challenging you, let's start working on this stuff now so that we aren't playing catch up, so that we are, able to be that strong badass that we see ourselves in the mirror, so that acts of daily living just become like, this is what I do. Like, I don't even think about that. And that we are, able to, lift and, thrive well into our, golden years. So I'd love to hear how this is landing for you. So do me a favor, screenshot it and shoot me a DM, or screenshot this and share it with someone who needs to hear about shrink training, because you do need to lift those weights. Like I said, it's easily anywhere from, 2 to 3 times a week, 8 to 12 reps, three sets. So get it done, and grab my resource guide where I go into greater detail. And I also link you out to other resources, other studies to show you about why shrink training is something that just needs to happen. All right, Magic Makers, it has been great. Thank you so much for your time, and keep on keeping on. Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.